33, verses 1 to 3. Then the Lord said to Moses, "Leave this place, you and the people you brought up out of Egypt, and go up to the land I promised and an oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I will give it to your descendants. I will send an angel before you and drive out the Canaanites, the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, and all the Hittites. Go up to the land flowing with milk and honey. But, look at this phrase, but I will not go with you because you are a stiff, naked people, and I might destroy you on the what? On the way." Basically, what we see here is that the unfaithfulness of God's people does not destroy the faithfulness of God. Are you getting the point? He must fulfill the promise that He made to their fathers. He is the covenant-keeping God. God said, the people will go up to the promised land, and I will send an angel from heaven to escort them and bring them to Canaan, to the place. Yes, I will fulfill my promise. However, what becomes really clear at this point is that something very significant is lost because of their sin. And this is very critical to them. He said He will withdraw His divine presence from them. He said, I will not go with you because you are a stiff, naked people, and I might destroy you on the way. And when the people heard this, what did they do? They mourned, and no one put on his ornaments. Now, here is a token, here is a sign of deep and true repentance. You know, after a string of very bad choices, they finally made a very good choice. They recognized that somehow more important than all the other things that had happened is a sense of God's presence. You know, friends, from the time they marched out from Egypt, God had always been with them. So when He said He will withdraw His presence, they felt a sense of loneliness and a sense of isolation. To them, if God goes with them, everything would be okay. But if God does not go with them, nothing is okay. They can stand Moses' anger. They can stand the broken tablets. They can stand the burned golden calf concoction. They can stand the Levites murdering 3,000 of their fellow Israelites. They can even stand God's plagues. But what they cannot stand is for God to withdraw His presence from them. They cannot withstand the absence of God among them. Nothing can replace the presence of God to them. It is very clear, friends. In verses 15 and 16 of chapter 33, Moses says, as he intercedes in behalf of the people, he begged, saying that he did not want to go anywhere without God's presence. Look at this. Then Moses said to him, if your presence does not go with us, do not send us up from here. How will anyone know that you are pleased with me and with your people unless you go with us? What else will distinguish me and your people from all the other people on the face of the earth? And so Moses knew that there were no substitutes of that, and nothing can compare to being with God. He was not willing at all to settle for anything else, because Moses truly understood how important God's presence in them. He knew that without God they don't have a future. For the Israelites to deeply implore God's presence was a good choice, isn't it? Now there are some reasons why I say they made a good choice. First of all, they understood the basic message of the Scriptures, which is basically the story of God's presence and God's absence from humanity. In Eden, God was with men. Adam and Eve had the privilege to enjoy intimate fellowship and communion with God. They loved to walk and talk with Him in the Garden of Eden. They talked with Him face to face. But when they chose to trust the devil and sin, their disobedience, we all know, caused them to withdraw from God. They hid themselves from Him because of fear. Their sin resulted from separation from God. And the rest of the Bible is the story of how God brings men back into His presence. It is the story of how He portrays His eagerness to dwell with them in a way that He could commune and be intimate with men. You can see this truth very clearly in the Old Testament. And in the New Testament we have Jesus who dwelt among us. He tabernacled with us. He was called Emmanuel, meaning God with us. Jesus came to bring God's presence. In fact, He is God's presence in us. So we see in this story, Israel made a very good choice. It is the core, it is the essence of the Bible, of Bible religion. But then let me ask, what does the story mean to us? For sure, most of us, if not all, make bad choices, right? In fact, you may be feeling down by the bad choices you've made. Perhaps one bad choice that led into a string of bad choices, that as you look at your life with all the consequences of such choices, you are asking to yourself, is there any hope? Can God still accept me? Can other people accept me? Friends, if this is your life right now, I have a good news for you. Listen, the God who worked with Israel's bad and good choices responds to us. I'm assuring you, friends, you can accept His presence in your life today. You can now decide to accept His restoring and sustaining grace and presence with us. And if you do that, it will make a difference in your life. Let me emphasize this a little. We all know that there are three literary parts of the book of Exodus. First, we have the narrative stories, and then we have the moral law, and then we have the rituals and ceremonial laws. As we pass our religion to our younger generation, we may encounter the problem of dropping the most important essence of religion. By the time you get to the second and third generation, the rules and the structures remain because they are codified. But the story of God's presence may get lost. In other words, we see what we're supposed to do. We know what is supposed to happen because it is permanently written. But the beauty of His grace, the presence that gave birth to all this, can be done away. And when that is gone, then we lost everything. Why do I say this? Because when the presence of God is gone, the law becomes legalism. Ceremonies of worship become empty ritualism and formality. And eventually, this kind of relationship leads to rebellion. So what I suggest is, we have to get the story. We have to get the meaning of the story. We have to experience His presence in the story. As parents, as teachers and leaders of our church, we must be sure that what we pass to our children and younger generation is not just the structure and the outward aspect of our beliefs, but most importantly, the inward presence of God. We need to look at our church. We need to look at our homes. We need to look at our lives and see if the presence of God is a reality. Is God real in us? Because if the presence of God is not within us, then how can we pass it to our children? How can we give something that we don't have? So let us ask ourselves, is God real in our lives? And to our younger ones, let me tell you this. If some of you have sensed that what comes to you is something that is wrong, something that is right, and you may be in fact right, I want to say to you this, friends, don't give up. Don't flee. Don't bail out. Help us to change that which is wrong in us or with us.